This is a story about a man who seemed to have everything needed for happiness. A prestigious job, a loving wife, attentive children, and a spacious home. However, in his later years, his well-being crumbled due to events from the past. Alex and Margaret Cooper met in 1950. 2 years later, they joined their lives together in marriage. Their family life was practically free of serious conflicts or arguments. There simply wasn't time for that, as all their energy went into raising 5 children. The years flew by unnoticed. The children grew up, and soon Alex and Margaret became grandparents. Margaret dedicated herself to managing the household, while Alex spent most of his life as a sales representative, constantly traveling across the country on business trips. His interests were typical for a man of that era: fishing, hiking, and playing guitar. Those around him described him as a cheerful and friendly person. No one ever noticed anything suspicious about him. On April 3, 1987, Alex, as usual, left for another business trip. The next morning, his youngest daughter Leila and her husband went shopping in a neighboring town. During the trip, they noticed Alex's car parked by the roadside near a bridge. Leila decided to greet her father. Her husband slowed down, turned around, and they drove up to Alex's car. The vehicle was locked. Leila thought her father might have gone down under the bridge to fish. However, there were no signs of his presence below. This caused Leila concern, and she decided to contact her mother. Margaret told her daughter that Alex hadn't been in contact for over 24 hours since leaving for his business trip. She hadn't given it much thought, assuming he was busy with work. However, finding the empty car caused serious concern. After unsuccessful calls to local hospitals, Margaret filed a missing person report with the police. The responding officers thoroughly examined Alex's car. Inside were his spare clothes and fishing equipment, but there were no signs of a struggle or other suspicious details. Despite extensive searches involving K9 units and a helicopter, no traces of the missing man were found. The initial theory of a possible accident during fishing, perhaps a heart attack followed by falling into the water, was ruled out after divers searched the area. A new lead emerged when it was discovered that on the morning of his disappearance, Alex had breakfast at a roadside diner near where his car was found. According to Margaret, her husband had a habit of carrying large amounts of cash, rolled up and secured with a rubber band. Investigators theorized that someone might have noticed Alex's money while he was paying for breakfast. Given his helpful nature, the perpetrator could have asked for a ride, then committed a robbery and harmed Alex, concealing any evidence. This became the primary theory in the investigation of the mysterious disappearance. This theory seemed most likely, although investigators also considered the possibility that Alex had voluntarily disappeared to start a new life. However, such a scenario appeared highly unlikely. He had no financial difficulties, his children were independent, and a peaceful retirement awaited him, allowing him to enjoy his well-deserved rest. Besides, at 65, few people would opt for such radical life changes. Throughout the following months, the search for Alex yielded no results. Periodically, relatives received messages from people claiming to have seen a similar-looking man trying to hitchhike on the day of his disappearance. These reports provided a glimmer of hope, but as time passed, the family gradually accepted the possibility that he was no longer alive. In 1989, 2 years after her husband's disappearance, Margaret initiated legal proceedings to have him declared deceased. This procedure required Alex's birth certificate. Unable to find the document at home, she sent a request to the appropriate authorities, from which an unexpected response came. No Alex Cooper had been registered on the stated date and year of birth. Attempts to locate any other documents proving her husband's existence led to an even more shocking discovery. There were no official records of Alex Cooper before 1952, when they got married. Margaret was stunned. Now she could only wonder about the true identity of the man with whom she had spent 35 years of married life. On May 27, 1991, in Toronto, about 2,200 miles from where Alex Cooper had vanished, a man reported to the police that his friend David Cooper was missing. While examining the missing man's room, officers found a photograph of David holding a small child. The appearance of the person in the picture strikingly resembled Alex Cooper, who had disappeared 4 years earlier. When the photograph was shown to Margaret, she was stunned. The photo, taken in 1985, indeed showed her husband holding their newborn grandson. If you enjoyed this video, please support my channel by subscribing and hit the bell icon to never miss my next video. It became clear that David Cooper and the missing Alex Cooper were the same person. However, the main mystery remained unsolved. Regardless of which name he used, no one knew his current whereabouts or the reasons why he was hiding. 2 days after the identification was made, the man returned to his Toronto apartment. Noticing signs of a police search, he contacted his landlady. She informed him that he had been reported missing, and the police urgently wanted to speak with him. He hadn't planned to disappear again, explaining his absence as an extended business trip, and was puzzled why his friend had reported him missing. However, when police arrived at the apartment the next day, Alex was gone again. The situation became increasingly mysterious. What had compelled him to leave his family 4 years ago? Who was he trying to hide from? What secret was he keeping? The story of Alex David caught journalists' attention, and in September 1991, this story was featured on the popular TV show Unsolved Mysteries, which reported on individuals sought by law enforcement. Often, viewers would recognize the show's subjects as their acquaintances or neighbors, significantly helping investigations. A similar situation occurred this time. After the episode aired, a man contacted the show claiming he had identified Alex Cooper, who was then living in Hamilton, just 43 miles from Toronto. Thanks to this information, on January 10, 1992, police finally managed to locate the wanted man. Now both law enforcement and Alex's family received their long-awaited answers. The man confessed that his real name was neither Alex nor David Cooper, but Albin Arsenault. He revealed that in 1948, he had worked at a Canadian bank, where he was falsely accused of taking money from one of the branches. Unwilling to face punishment for a crime he hadn't committed, he decided to disappear. 4 years later, under the name Alex Cooper, he married Margaret, carefully hiding his past throughout their 35 years of marriage. However, his past caught up with him when he turned 65, retirement age, and he couldn't claim his pension benefits due to the lack of a birth certificate. He understood that exposure was inevitable. Sooner or later, either his family or the authorities would question the absence of pension paperwork. This would lead to the discovery of his true identity, Albin Arsenault. Fearing arrest for the 1948 incident, he didn't know the most important thing: all charges in that case had long been dropped, and he was completely clear in the eyes of the law. 2 days after police found Albin in Hamilton, after nearly 5 years away, he finally returned to his family. Though his family found it very difficult to understand his actions, they were relieved that he was alive. As a result, they welcomed him back with open arms. Albin and Margaret lived together for another 5 years until Margaret passed away in 1996. Albin himself lived to be 85 years old and passed away in 2007. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you didn't, feel free to give it a dislike. Make sure to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video.